Hi, Mike. It's A Square.
Hey, A Square. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good.
Well, I wanted to. Oh, I'm glad
How
to
are you?
hear. How was the? Well, we could be better after the beatings that we've gotten this week. But
That sure
you
is
got
the
to pick
truth.
yourself up. You got to pick yourself up. Two quick questions.
Yes,
Is
please.
the San Francisco show going to be on your patron site?
Oh, which you mean the Austin show?
I'm sorry. The I thought you were in L.A.
Oh, we're in
recently.
LA.
No.
Yeah. Maybe. I have to see if I can get that from Nomi. Probably.
Okay.
I think
I have
so.
a confession to make. I thought that I was a Patreon subscriber, and I realized recently that I wasn't, so I became one.
Well,
Sorry about that.
please. Thank you so much. I'm honored. Thank you. Welcome
So,
aboard.
thank you. I wanted to call because I think that I appreciate the way you started the show today because, to quote Idiot Bush, the strategery that is going to be required in the next, not even weeks, the next couple of days from the Sanders campaign is going to be it's critical. They've run a good campaign. Faiz Shakir, right, is the campaign manager.
Yeah, Faz. Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard him recently in an interview, and he had to acknowledge that the gelling of the centrists and the so-called moderates really took them by surprise. They had no plan for any of this.
Right.
And I think that they are scrambling to figure that out, coupled with the low youth turnout in some of these states. It's been a lot for this campaign to absorb, and I just wanted to put that out there for all of the people that are disappointed or would like Sanders to throw Warren completely under the bus right now, that the campaign is really trying to figure out how they pivot. I mean, I think you hit a critical point that I've heard Crystal Ball made, which is that this is not the time to talk about the Castro's success or failures of his regime, right? The positioning of Sanders within the FDR brand of liberalism and radicalism is going to be much more palatable to these people in the Midwest. And then this morning, to boot, like, we don't have enough bad news. The governor of Michigan endorsed Biden. And so,
Oh, we knew
what
that
that
was
means
coming. That was coming.
Yeah.
May I just say, I'm gonna. I think actually you'd be a really good person for me to sort of articulate some of my thoughts about the Warren dynamic with, because
Yeah, because, like Jamie, I have love for her, but I understand that strategically, I mean, it's just been a disaster, not only for her campaign, but also she's impacted the Sanders campaign. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple of different things going on here with the Warren dynamic, and partially some of it is very, very narrow conversations in shows like this and online. And from the very beginning, I have both thought it was just foolish and I guess been annoyed by the idea that two people are running against each other. So you run a campaign and you differentiate. And this idea that, and it was always only one way, because the whole subtext of Warren's campaign was, I mean, there's a reason that she's running, which is that she's saying that she's better. And so, okay, fine. That's everybody's right to do. But as someone who supports Sanders, obviously I think he's better. So we're going to differentiate it. And I think that those of us, particularly in this little subculture on the left, played a role for a while in handcuffing really important and basic differentiations and critiques that need to be made about the Warren campaign. And, I have to say today, like,
Agree.
yeah.
Agree.
And so that's, and I think as it's played out, like, sure, I'll say again, I think for what it's worth, I think when you're encountering normal people and you're out knocking on doors and campaigning, like, I think you should be nice to Trump supporters. Like, I think this kind of broader question of, like, no, I don't think you should go to a door that you're knocking in somewhere and they say, oh, I like Warren. And then you pull out a snake puppet and go, this is you right now. Right? Like nobody's talking about that. But in this media and online discourse, you've had this the narrative of the Bernie bro is insincere, it's classist, it's dishonest, it's totally can't be indulged for a second. And I will never indulge it for a second. Mm-hmm. And then when you do see folks saying, well, I like, I like Bernie, but he's, his supporters sent an emoji, so I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. That's narcissism. That's actually toxic narcissism, and I'm going to call it what it is. And I think, frankly, it's interesting and disturbing that people had no problem calling that what it was when, somebody voted for, say, Jill Stein in a swing state and said, oh, but it's my conscience. And I think we all kind of generally agreed, like, no, there's actually other things to consider besides your own feelings. So I just have the same principle. I think just because Warren supporters have more social capital doesn't mean I'm going to apply the same principle. Voting for her when she cannot win and if you care about policy, blocking Sanders is an act of narcissism, period. So, and I think the bigger picture is that the paradox of the Sanders campaign so far is that they have been, in some areas, totally unwilling to, again, not attack, not run vicious ads, but just say like, hey, we're different than Warren. Yeah, we're different. Yeah, here's how, here's why, here's what it looks like. And do that from the beginning and resist all of the foolish nonsense calls for unity because it's a campaign. And then on the other hand, spend 10 months talking about FDR. And frankly, if there was a turning point in this campaign, I completely missed it. But the fact that on stage in South Carolina, Bernie Sanders didn't get one shot in on Joe Biden's Social Security is a major damn mistake. So I that's how I see it. And that has nothing to do with, you should be nice and respectful to Biden voters. You should be nice and respectful on the doorstep in the community. But in media narrative, when I see people doing disingenuous narcissism, I'm not going to indulge it. That's not going to be my game.
So what do you think is going to be critical in the next, like I said, forget the next couple of weeks. Yeah. I mean, Michigan is Tuesday, and that is going to be critical. What do you think is, if you were in the campaign or you were calling Brianna, what would you say? Well, I think these are the three key things for the campaign for the next week.
I think he needs to aggressively synthesize that somehow saying, I did a video a couple years ago where I said, the only way to save what you like about liberalism is by socialism. And he needs to say it much more simply than that, obviously. But the only way to have a durable return to some of the norms that you like, quote unquote, is by having some actual reforms in the country so people aren't quite so angry and quite so deprived. He needs to put those two messages together. To be really blunt, maybe I shouldn't be as blunt as this, and he can't say it personally, but I think there needs to be some subtle messaging on where Biden's at mentally and physically. I'll just be blunt about it.
I agree. I think that is the fondness for Biden is going to kill us all, right? I mean, I think that it is clear. I mean, that clip that you showed of him, and I had seen it online 4 years ago, the decline in 4 years has been tremendous.
It's stunning, right?
The inability to it's just stunning. The inability to finish a thought, put a sentence together. It's just, but I think that you're right. I think that you thread lightly with that. How do you make that argument? I think it's going to be one of the key things. For the Midwest, I think for Michigan is you're going to have to, talk about trade.
For sure. Of course.
I think the black vote in Milwaukee, I think I think these black men that sat out for Hillary may come out on Tuesday, and I think that's going to be challenging. And I'm going to let you go because I feel like now I wake up and and all I say is thanks, Obama, because I see his invisible hand this last week pushing Clyburn,
Yep.
the call to Mayo Pete, and then this endorsement from the Michigan governor. Let me say that the only reason why I thought this was not going to happen was because she herself said that she was not going to endorse. So when she came out this morning, I'm thinking this was another Obama call for sure. But guys, as always, we so appreciate what you all do. Matt, Jamie, Brandon, all of you. It is so critical. And best is left. Left is
Left is
best. Left is best.
Hey,
Yes.
Square, thank
Bye.
you so much. Have a great day, okay? Thank you a million.
You too. Bye.
All right, be well.
Bye.
What's this?
We already put this up, but it's an
Okay.
Ashley Feinberg tweet because Ezra Klein, getting wonky, says, so the 2020 election is going to come down to a 73-year-old conspiracy theorist who rambles incoherently and lies constantly, a 77-year-old who rambles and sometimes loses place, and I would add, lies constantly,
Right.
and a 78-year-old socialist who just had a heart attack. And
Wow, Ezra Klein is disgusting.
Ashley Feinberg says, yeah, should we choose the one candidate who still has a functioning brain? Hard to say.
This is that type of, it's fun. It is amazing to watch the trajectory of people who made, like, don't make false equivalencies, are now in the heart of battle making the most obscene false equivalencies. And I have been too hard on some people in some factions and way too easy on others. Mea culpa.